time, we have defensive coordinator Zac Alley. Questions for Coach Alley, Greg?
Zach, so start with Utah. Their offensive line has a great reputation. What kind of test is this?
Really good one. You know, their left and right tackle look like first-round draft picks. I mean, they got some dudes up there, and they're big, physical. You know, the quarterback's a good player. You know, he can run. They use him as a primary runner a lot of times, and get the +1 run game, those things going, and they run behind the offensive line that way. And they'll give you sets, like normal sets, where they take 2 extra linemen and put them at tight end and, you know, run behind those guys. So I got a big physical group coming in. We got to play well.
They do a lot different. I mean, because before you thought of them as a power run team in years past, but it sounds like they're trying to spread a little bit more with the new coordinator. So is that fair or not?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I still think they're trying to be a power run team. They just get to it different ways. You know, so they'll show you some more spread out formations, but they're going to run power, they're going to run counter, they're going to run downhill run game at you consistently. That's still who they want to be.
Not as much eye candy as Kansas?
Not nearly as much,
Yeah.
you know, still some, but I think, like I said before, Kansas probably will be the top offense, one of the top offenses in the conference, and they do a great job of deception and moving guys.
What did you see from Texas Tech that allowed them to slow down Utah last week?
I mean, first off, Texas Tech's really talented. You know, their D-line got after him, got off the ball, made it hard on that quarterback all day, knocked him backwards. You know, I thought they had a great plan as far as the run game, pass game, those type of things. They, you know, had clearly studied them all offseason with the plan to go in and win that game. So you could tell that the preparation was there. So, you know, they out-physicaled them and they outplayed them.
It was close until the fourth quarter. I think like 24 points in the last 8 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, really tight.
Yeah. So it was kind of a back and forth game and field position, that type of thing.
It was, and then Texas Tech at the end was able to force, I think, like 4 straight 3-and-outs, you know, and that gave the ball back to the offense, and they caught fire on that side of the ball, and then, you know, kind of ran away from Utah at the end. So a much more competitive game than the score really looked like at the end of the game.
What are your thoughts on the targeting call on Fred Perry, and then what do you need to see from him moving forward to avoid that type of scenario again? Rich Rod talked a lot. He talked last night on the show about he's an aggressive player, but you do have to play smarter.
Yeah, you know, I think you can't hit a guy in the head. It doesn't matter, you know, whether it's your shoulder or your knee or whatever it is. You know, we want him to be safe, and we won't want to hurt anybody else. You know, I think sometimes that gets misdemeanored sometimes. Like, man, I don't want anybody to be injured. You know, we want to help everybody and want him to play well. And Fred's an aggressive kid. He is. He's going to go and attack, and that's the things you love about him, that he is such an aggressive player, and he's going to give you everything he's got every play. I mean, he's making a hustle play there. He's going full speed, and, you know, it's bang, bang, and he's got to get his head up. And, you know, I do think it's hard all the time because, you know, offensive players, they change levels. You know, they drop. Now his head was up here, now it's down here. It happens fast, and we've got to react in the air and, you know, be able to avoid those type of collisions.
What did you see from Jamori in those limited snaps that he got, and what's something that you think he can build on coming into this week?
Yeah, you know, I think he's still getting comfortable in the defense. You know, it's one thing to sit in meetings and see it. It's another thing to go out and execute. You know, and I think that as he gets more reps within the defense and the system, he'll just play better and better. So, you know, obviously it's good to have him back, and hopefully this week will be another step towards that.
What did he do well? What did he do maybe that you need to correct with Jamori?
You know, I think that, you know, he tried to get off the rock on the passer. We got to win in a couple of those situations, one-on-one, you know, against maybe, you know, what we felt like was the way to attack them, using him. And then, you know, still had a couple of busts, you know, gave up the touchdown, the one. We worked that in practice, that same call, same thing, reloaded it for him, did it in the walkthrough. And then, you know, we got a bad read. We're looking in the backfield. And need to find the wheel route instead. So obviously that was a big play in the game. And so just the discipline of playing the position and getting those reps.
Zach, following up on that, how much of when the defense doesn't, you know, have a great rep, is it an assignment thing like that versus maybe just getting beat physically by, you know, somebody better?
Well, you know, it was a weird game because obviously there's a lot of points scored. We only gave up 4 explosive plays in the whole day. Now 3 of them scored. The disappointing part for me was, and I showed them this yesterday, was we were in the exact call to the exact play that we ran in practice. Not like close to it, like the same one in the same situation to the same shift and everything. And we bust the coverage on the first 4th down. Same guy, same rep. and you try and prepare them that way of like, hey, here's what I'm going to call. Here's going to be the play. And I'm not perfect, but I'm better than most, and getting us into the right things. And, guy runs right by us. And so it's trying to get the vision of we got to translate what we do in practice to what we do in the game, and so they make that kind of happen early on. And same thing with Jamori, gave that same rep, same motion, all that. And, got to just fix those problems as you get into the game. And everything, you're going to get all the eye candy, those things, the differences in how the game gets played. It happens faster than it does in practice. And but at the end of the day, I felt like they were prepared for those moments, and we got to play better. We got to respond the right way in that time. And then later on in the game, as we got kind of tired, we started missing tackles. We give up the big play run at the end, and I mean, there's 4 dudes, in position and in a tight space and we don't make any of them. So obviously that space tackling is something we're working on this week, and we'll start with it today.
The goal line stand you had early in the game, can you build off that? I mean, it was essentially the game was determined, but it demonstrated that the guys didn't quit.
Absolutely. I was proud of them. I told them that in the meeting. I was proud of them. You could have easily said, whatever, let them score and this, that, and the other. And we bowed up when we had to and in a critical moment. And, that's the fight you're looking for, that no matter the situation, no matter what's going on, man, I'm going to give my best every single play and everything I can do, and do everything I can to help the team.
4 plays, you said, but I would imagine, and this is the frustrating part, several more that you called right and got right, but just the small number is what prevails. Like, is that extremely frustrating from your perspective?
Not as much. I mean, I don't like it. I would say, you don't want to give up explosives. The frustrating part with this one was, we had 1 or 2 that were an issue in the pit game that came open, and we were able to get them down, and live to play another down. And, we gave up 2 of those for touchdowns, and that's gonna lose the game most of the time. And, so the lack of, I guess, ability to get them on the ground once they happened is something we've got to work on.
They use a number of defensive players on offense, and it's not just gimmick stuff. Can that be tricky when you're all of a sudden a linebacker or a safety runs in the field? You pay too much attention in, but they do use those guys too. How do you prepare and adjust when they pop up in the field?
Yeah, we studied it. We will continue to study it all week and see kind of how they use them and what they play. Some guys come in to play running back, some guys come in to play receiver, some guys play tight end. So it depends. I think they're trying to get some of their better athletes on the field, just generally. So they're going to use them in situations to help them, and they've had some big play explosives from some of those guys coming over. Obviously, it's a challenge for our staff as far as identifying when they're in the game, during the series, because they're going to sub them in and out. They're not going to be in there every snap, so we've got to recognize them when they are, and just be prepared for what they're going to give you.
Is there a specific way you strategize or plan when you know the offense might not be where it needs to be fully, and you're going to be, the defense is going to be on the field a lot, and you're going to have to make sure that opposing team doesn't score too many points because the offense just isn't moving as the way it wants to be?
Week in and week out, how we do what we do doesn't change. Our standard is if you roll the ball out there, my job's to stop you. I don't care if it's on the 1 yard line, the minus 99, if we're up 40, down 40, whatever that is, our job's to stop them all the time. And that's the mindset that we're going to play with, whether it's a 4th and 1 stand at the end of the game or, wherever it is, I don't think that I think any differently at all. When you put it out there, our job's to get off the field. And whatever that looks like, that's what we're going to do.
To that point, do you think there's any exhaustion factor that maybe happened at Kansas just because the defense had played so hard and played so well and had to do so much on the field so much the prior 3 weeks? Did that play into it at all for you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, we give up 3 big play busts, 1's missed tackles, and 2 are things we repped. So I from a preparation and getting out there and attacking them standpoint, I thought it was, same as it is every other week, which is there's a process of how we get ready to play, and there's a mindset and a standard we play to, and we're always going to play to that all the time, irregardless of where the ball is, what the score is, this is the expectation and this is the standard.
It looks like you have 3 bandits now that you can win with that are really good, great players. So does that change some ways that you can do things, like Jamori possibly a 5, different things you're considering there?
Yeah, I think we want to use our best players in the best position to be, successful. So every week we look at that and see where the guys need to play and what they can do to help us. And so we'll move them around a little bit and, try and find packages to get multiple guys on the field too.
Looking at the participation, looked like you got a lot of guys in late. Was that purposeful? And was there anybody that showed up late in the game that you said, yeah, played a little better than I thought?
Yeah, I think obviously you want to get guys opportunity, to get them in the game when they can. And a lot of dudes work really hard all week, for that one opportunity to go in there and show what they got. And that's how the team, gets built, with giving opportunities to guys, later in games. And hopefully you can do it on the other side when you're, up 40, and they're excited to go in there too. But that experience is really, really valuable. And, I thought we came in the end of the game and Keyshawn Robinson went out there and made a tackle and came off a block. And, obviously he's a converted corner from receiver. So he's still getting used to playing the position this year, but was really proud of his development and kind of just working that way and trying to get himself. He gives everything he's got every day, and it's fun to see him get in there and make a play.
Zach, what do we make of the numbers that Coates has allowed this year? Just no one's throwing at him. It's not no one's making plays on him. But is it closed off on that side? Have you kept the ball away from him, or has he just been that good?
I feel comfortable with him out there in man, that's for sure. I think he's done a great job. He made a heck of a play on the goal line on the one in the last game, and he continues to just show up, week in and week out. And there's a reason that he was really good prior to coming here, and we felt like he could be a day one impact guy for us, and he has been. So that's been a good thing.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach.
Thanks, y'all.